Hi, this is Glenn with Crimson Lotus Tea. Going to talk today about Gaiwans, how to choose them and how to use them. When you're brewing Gong Fu style, a Gaiwan is a pretty simple, practical tool that's essential in your tea brewing collection. A Gaiwan is really simple. It's basically just a cup with a lid, and this simple brewing device has been used in China since who knows when. It is perhaps a little bit intimidating for a Western consumer who's new to brewing tea Chinese style to understand how this works, but it's really simple. A Gaiwan is nothing more than leaf and water in the same cup. You hold it and you pour it out. And the lid on the lid right here actually acts as a way to kind of strain some of the leaf material out. It's pretty simple. Gaiwan shouldn't really be something that you fret a lot about. You'll use many Gaiwans and throughout your story with tea, and it's not a bad idea to have multiple ones. I like to test and sample and drink a bunch of different teas at the same time, especially during spring picking season. So I'll have like a whole bag of Gaiwans that I take up to the tea mountains, and I'll try and sample and sit with the farmers and try a bunch of different stuff. Your standard Gaiwans are going to be porcelain ones. These are just like the basic, most simple tool you can have for brewing tea. Porcelain gives a really nice, clean approximation, a natural approximation of what the tea is. Clay and silver and other metal materials can often change. They usually enhance the flavor of a tea, but if you really want like a good, pure representation of the tea, you should be brewing in porcelain. At least until you understand what exactly you're looking for, and then you could move up to different types of Gaiwans. For example, this is a clay Gaiwan. This is a clay Gaiwan made out of Zhengshui clay. It's gorgeous. It's really nice. It's perfect size for single or one or two person brewing. It's really well made. It has a really good shape, a really good pour. It feels nice in the hand. But those are a little bit more expensive, and you can also, it's really only a good idea to use a clay Gaiwan or any clay brewing vessel with a single type of tea. It is porous and it will interact and change the flavor of the tea in positive ways over time. But if you brewed a show pour and a Gaiwan or teapot you had set up for sheng pour, it is going to change the flavor of it. You'll also see a lot of celadon. Celadon, you can tell by like the generally that specific green color and the cracked texture, which actually improves over time. These ones are really heavy duty. This one is really thick. It's good for brewing pu'er, which likes it nice and hot. These are ones that we have custom made for us. We sell these on our site, as well as the clay Gaiwans. We don't currently sell any specific porcelain Gaiwans. Actually, we have one or two. We sell a couple in part of a kit, a starter kit, and but we're looking to get some more this year. You can also find glass Gaiwans. Glass Gaiwans are a lot of fun. You can see everything that's brewing on the inside. This is an interesting one because it actually has a wood-fired top, and so you get a little bit of clay and glass going on at the same time. So things to look for. It depends on the size of your hands. And again, if you're buying your first Gaiwan, probably buy one of the cheapest ones you can find. You can get them online for like less than $15. Once you understand what you want and what you're looking for, then you can kind of move up to something more specialized, like a clay one or like one of the celadon ones that we sell on our site, which are still relatively affordable. I think at $35. The clay ones are a little bit more. It's a little bit trickier to make them. They use a really high quality clay from Zhengshui, and so those ones are definitely more than that. But online, Amazon, wherever, I've seen really simple Gaiwans for sale for just like $10 or $15, and expect to go through them. They can break easily. You can drop them. It's not a problem. It's a pretty simple tool. Just replace it and don't worry about it. You can get a lot of really nice pretty ones. I prefer the ones myself that are a little bit taller in shape. You can tell the difference between these two here. One has a really low profile and one has a tall profile. It has to do with sometimes with the way heat travels through. I find that the lower profile ones, especially when they're thin porcelain, they'll really start to burn your fingers. I really dislike using this one because it always burns my fingers. You will eventually kind of build up little calluses over time. You know, the way you hold it is kind of like you've got a three finger grip right here like this, and when you go to steep it out, you know, you're holding it like this. And yeah, those can get a little hot right there, and sometimes there can get a little bit of steam coming up through right here. You need to be careful about that. Otherwise, it's pretty simple and straightforward to use. If you get a chance to be at a store and you can test them out in person, you will notice a lot of times the lids don't fit exactly right. So like this one right here, the lid would be perfect like this, but it doesn't actually sit like that. It looks like it sits a little crooked on there. It's not a big problem, but it's something to look for. I bought these anyways, knowing that the lid was a little bit crooked, because I really like them, and they were cheap. Picked them up when we were in China. So if you have a Gaiwan, most of them will come with a saucer, and the saucer is, I don't always use the saucer myself. I usually leave this on the tea table without it. It depends on you. You can look at the size difference between these two Gaiwans right here. There's a pretty big size difference, and I don't have fairly large hands, so I generally like a smaller Gaiwan. Something like this is actually a really nice size. The Celadon ones that we sell are significantly larger, but even still, like, my small hands can actually hold it fairly well. And you just kind of do something simple like this. This is easily my favorite Gaiwan. I love these. Super excited that we have them. I use them. It's primarily my go-to Gaiwan. I like it a lot. So if you do have a Gaiwan that's a little bit too big and it has a saucer, there's one trick that you can do. So instead of using the standard three fingers around the outside like this, you can actually see how you can control the lid. It allows you to control how much of the leaf stays in there when you're pouring it out. And but if your fingers aren't quite big enough for that, for a Gaiwan like this, it's a bit of a stretch for me, and I know if it's a stretch for me, it'll be a stretch for a lot of people. You can actually use both, right? And it's actually fairly comfortable to hold the whole Gaiwan in the hand like this. And what you'll want to do is you'll hold it with the thumb, so you got all your fingers on the bottom like this, and you'll hold it with the thumb, and you'll do just a crack like that, and you'll pour it from the side. And this is nice because all the steam's going to be coming up here, and it's a really good way to give this a nice stable base. You can hold the whole thing, but your hands aren't going to be hot. You can pour it over and steep it like that. And I'll do that sometimes, depending on if the Gaiwan is much larger. There's also another trick that I've seen in China being used. So if you have a really deep saucer, like this one right here, this is a fairly deep saucer. There's a lot of room in the saucer for water, and if your tea is cooling down quicker, sometimes you want it to be a little bit hotter, but a little bit longer. You can actually fill this up with hot water and pour the hot water into there, and then steep with this, and it just helps to keep the water hotter a little longer. I've seen that a few times. It's optional. You don't have to do that, but if you do that, then it will actually make it really difficult to pour out. If you grab the saucer. So yeah, those are the basic the two simple Gaiwan tricks. You can hold it like this with the saucer on the bottom, pour it out like that, or go the other way, which is the more standard three finger approach. Definitely takes a little bit of practice. Try it over a pillow or a blanket with a standard Gaiwan without water in it, and it'll probably be a good way to practice. Your finger, it will get hot, and that's okay. You'll get used to that over time. I've probably built up some little calluses and stuff on the inside of these fingers. But yeah, if you're dealing with pu'er, you're dealing with boiling water primarily, and so definitely be careful. Yeah, let us know in the comments if you have any specific questions about Gaiwans. Check them out on our site if you can, crimsonlotustea.com. And thanks for checking us out. Happy steeping.